Okay, welcome to the Backyard Professor Responds videos. Got an interesting video to talk about today. There goes the hot rod motorcycles. I'm out in my backyard again, just enjoying it. Love the weather. I've got 77-degree day, the first real good one. So I'm going to record out here. Lue Elizondo has stepped in a pile of poop again. Houston, we've got a problem. I want to discuss several different facets. Now, yesterday, he was in this congressional briefing, and he showed a picture of a UFO taken by a pilot, and he hadn't vetted it. It wasn't his own. He was given permission to show it that morning, and he went ahead and showed it to the group who had, it was a who's who of who was there. Avi Loeb and just all kinds of people. Chris Mellon, Congresswoman Luna, etc. Just a lot of people. Eric Davis. I think Burchett was there from Tennessee, the Republican from Tennessee. So this was a group where they were talking about UFOs and the idea of how do we get people feeling comfortable bringing forward information of their experiences and their sightings of UFOs as they have them. And Patrick at Vetted showed the live stream. I was able to get on there for a few minutes off and on. Well, he has now come on and shared this photograph, an analysis of this photograph that Lou showed, and it has been debunked. Now, the sneezing monkey, who is a debunker, a very funny one, he has a couple of points also that I will share. I've got various clips from Patrick, but I want to approach this from a much more analytical situation. The only way to describe this is seriously stupid of what Lou did. The implications of this, there are many, many different directions we can go analyze this. So it's disappointing. This is what makes ufology so fascinating, because just when you get to the point where you think you're making progress, we take two steps back. Lou didn't take any steps back. He tripped and fell right on his face, in my opinion. Really sad. Now, at the same time, and understand where I'm coming from here, I will analyze this tonight. This is a golden opportunity, and I'm very thrilled to have this opportunity to turn our critical thinking on, and let's do some analysis of some ideas here. What makes this such a golden opportunity? What we're doing tonight is we're back in school. You never leave school. Those people who say, yes, I graduated and got my GED, or I got my certificate from high school, and now I never have to read another book. You poor people, how you cheat yourselves. No, we're not done reading books. You never stop learning. I don't know who put that idiotic philosophy in our heads, but I rejected it immediately. I've been reading my whole life, and I'm better for it. Tonight, because we've studied critical thinking, we have an absolutely beautiful test case to use our critical thinking. And the nice thing is, what makes this so poignant for us is that this is a major UFO authority. I would find it hard to find someone who is higher in the echelon of ufology than Lue Elizondo. The crazy thing is, he did the same thing several months back with the lampshade UFO that was basically a picture taken by someone through a window, and he caught the reflection. You can even see the hairline on his head at the bottom of this thing. And Lue Elizondo was calling this the mothership, and he made a big whoop-de-doo about it. Totally embarrassing, just ridiculous. Well, he's done it again. He showed a fake UFO video. And so I want to share the evidence. I want to share the clips. Now, Patrick from Bedded, I've taken just bits and pieces. I will link both the Sneezing Monkey and Patrick from Bedded, their analysis of this, in my description beneath this video. And I want to analyze this using our critical thinking skills. This is a good clarion call for all of us. We need to stay sharp. We need to be able to look at materials and, as best as possible, take our biases and set them to the side. And let's analyze the evidence. I've said before constantly, I'm looking at all sides. I look at all sides as I have time, as I can. My heroes as well as the villains. The good guys versus the bad guys, the informed versus the ignorant, etc. I look at videos, I look at photographs, I try to get my own. I'm doing everything I can to keep it real, and this is what this opportunity presents us, is how do we keep it real, and what are some of the various implications? I'm going to share those with you, but I probably won't catch them all, and so I'm really looking forward to your guys' comments in the comment section below. If all you want to say is, yeah, Lue is such a grifter, shut up. I don't want to listen to you. Don't waste our time. This is going to try to be, I shouldn't tell people to shut up. Everyone has a voice on my channel, but I mean, can you engage your brain just enough to actually contribute to the conversation is what I'm hoping, because I really want to know what you guys think. I want you to show me other angles that I have missed. There's no way I'm going to catch all these angles, but let's forget the name calling. You know, we're going to be adults tonight. I get it. It's disappointing to some and all that. But let's get going here. Let's take a look at, new UFO photo. This is my friend Patrick from Bedded. He has several points I want to share with you, just to give us some context.
Showed this picture during the briefing, and here's my initial reaction to this. Guys, audio bad. We need the audio up.
Taken by a civilian pilot. Now, why is this important?
Show that picture again. Here we go. Let him get a zoom in on it, please.
This is taken from a civilian pilot, right? Not a FLIR system, not an infrared system.
What the fuck? Yeah.
Even while the live was going, Patrick was saying, what on earth is this? And I think legitimately so. I think the majority of people had that reaction watching that. What is Elizondo doing? You know, are you serious? That is amateur Mickey Mouse. Well, we're not here to criticize so much as analyze. And so the idea that you want to get new information out is important, but not like this. He had just received the photo. Dude, you're in a congressional briefing. Congresswoman Luna is there. You don't know anything about the photo, and you want to pass it around and show it? Really? And this isn't the first time. Now, my first reaction to this, and I'll just let this out right now so I don't forget it later in this video. Is this an attempt to set Lue up and make him fail? I don't know yet. We're going to analyze that. Is this an attempt to make it so, and this is not a genuine skiff, it's not an actual hearing in Congress, but pulling something like this off and watching Lue do a belly flop here with evidence, fake evidence, is this an interesting way to eliminate future congressional hearings? Because obviously even Lue Elizondo doesn't know what a real UFO is, so why keep trying? Forget the hearings, they're a waste of our time. That's got a sinister angle to it that makes me very uncomfortable. I'm just throwing that out there to let us think about it while we continue on looking at Patrick's idea.
And I just received permission today to share this with you. It is a lenticular object, and when you look at the shadow being cast, it is significantly large. This is an altitude of 21,000 feet. Taken by a civilian pilot. Now, why is this important? I'll pass this around. I'll hold a copy for you. Kirk, when you're finished as well, please pass it on down to them. This is taken from a civilian pilot, right? Not a FLIR system, not an infrared system, but an average person with an average camera at 21,000 feet. And the object potentially is anywhere between 600 to 1,000 feet in diameter. It's a lenticular object, and it is silver. Now, I cannot vouch for the veracity of this photograph. I didn't take it. But this is an example of one of many, many, many incidents involving commercial and private pilots. And guess what? They don't know where to report it. Guess what? Congress has no idea that this is happening on a regular basis. That's a problem.
Now, the critically important point here is what Lue is attempting to do, and Patrick will talk about this also. The issue is pilots who see anomalies like this really don't know where to send the information, and so they usually don't. He says there are thousands of photos like this that no one has ever seen. Well, the problem is this one was debunked as completely fraudulent. If the other thousands are also fraudulent, what does that tell us? Yeah. See, the implications of this can unroll and tumble out for several years to come. We're nowhere near done at analyzing and collecting the data. And we have to now recognize that we have a lot more important, careful, critical analyzing to do with the already existing data.
Go through a few of these images that I've got here. So this guy right here pretty much says he found the image, right? Pretty sure I found Elizondo's UAP, and it's an irrigation circle that Mick West and others had theorized. He puts a link to Google Maps. I'll put links to all of this so you can check it out for yourself. But there it is, and this is the picture, right? So, and then he did this overlay here. You can see it's identical. It's quite literally identical. So it's not a shadow. This part right here is not a shadow. It's just another irrigation circle. It's just on top of each other, right? But it makes it look like a shadow. It's quite literally the same thing. And look, Luis Elizondo even admits it's debunked. So let's look at his statement.
Perhaps somebody tinkered with the photo a little bit to make that top circle stand out more so that it looked like it was above the other one as a UAP, and the one below it was a shadow. That would be my suggestion. Now Lue has responded to this, and he makes some important points. In the process, he obviously erred. This was a blunder, but the intention was correct to try to figure out how do we get people familiar with turning this type of evidence in? Where do we go? How do we do this? I get that. But in the process, this isn't the way to do it with crappy stuff. The whole setup of this briefing was not really impressive. They had troubles with their sound throughout. It was just not very fun to watch, unfortunately.
Two.
I just received permission today.
Oh, okay. So here we go. Lue Elizondo issues statement on debunked UFO he shared before Congress. So, as you know, I'm always first to admit mistakes, but this is not one of those times. The facts regarding the photo I shared from a private pilot, as I emphasized several times yesterday during the forum, are as follows. Number one, the specific photo had only just been provided to me by a private pilot that morning prior to the forum. Well, that's not good. So he gets the picture right before this briefing and shows it and by this private pilot. And this pilot didn't know these were irrigation circles on the ground. This almost seems like Lue Elizondo was set up to fail here.
Yeah, and the question now is, is there a sinister intent? Is it innocent ignorance of a pilot? Maybe his eyesight couldn't see the circle, the lighter circle very well, and so he filled it in to make it stand out above its shadow, etc. We just don't know. We don't know if it's sinister or if it's innocent. Interesting points to consider for future times when we get pictures like this.
The photo had not yet been vetted. Well, they got vetted pretty quickly. The dimensions I quoted were per the pilot's own assessment of what he saw based on altitude and experience. This may be a very confused pilot. The purpose of me showing the photo was to illustrate the need for civilian and commercial pilots to have a central reporting mechanism to report potential anomalous sightings. I can agree with that. Totally understand. In this case, the pilot who took the photo using his own camera did not have a way to report what he believed was anomalous.
This is Elizondo's main defense of the use of this photo.
Once again, as I stated during the forum, I only received permission to release it that morning and was only made aware of it shortly before. So my guess is he will not be doing that again.
From my take on this, Lue Elizondo can't do that again. Elizondo has one strike against him for that ridiculous mothership photo that he mistakenly identified. He's got two strikes with this other photo that just doesn't pan out either. On the third strike, you're out. Is this, and this is part of the implications, is this like a PSYOP setup? Is this disinformation, or is it an honest mistake? At this point, we still don't have enough data. I wish we did, but we don't. But these issues, these suspicions, these hopes and these fears are all arising and percolating in the public now. And this didn't help. Let's keep going.
Right. Taking a photo that someone gave him and just show this. I mean, they're at a congressional briefing. You would have thought they would have thought that out a little bit more, to be honest with you. Now, granted, I get at first glance, it looks like something anomalous, but just a little bit of digging and you find out what exactly it is. And it is kind of embarrassing, whether it's right or wrong, to have shown that, because that's all anyone's focusing on for that briefing is this photo, right, that got shown.
And that's one of the big downsides of doing this without making sure of your materials. Now, and again, this idea crops up. Is this someone trying to stop future congressional hearings from occurring? If so, we need to get a hold of that pilot and question him. Now, it's unlikely that Lue is ever going to give us his name. He himself may not even know it, in which case that makes this even a more egregious error from my take on this. You don't know the guy. Yeah, I took this picture and you can use it. Whoa, hold on. Time out. That's not how we do things around here. We've got to at least double and triple check things, right? That is what should have been done. Well, this is a mighty important lesson learned, right?
Not sure how many times I need to say it, so I will say it again. The photo was not yet vetted, and I made that perfectly clear. I guess the big question I have is, why would you then show that at a congressional briefing about understanding UAP? Like, this is your time to shine. You know what I mean?
Very excellent point. This didn't work out right. Very important for moving forward from now on. Also, very helpful for those of us on YouTube who are attempting to get our own materials. We have an advantage that we can present materials to our audiences and we can ask for your help. What do you think this might have been, etc.? I myself have done that with all the videos I'm doing. Well, the few that I've done, I should say. And this is valuable. It didn't take the internet just 2 hours and they already found the information and showed, nope, this is fake. That's not actually a UFO at all. So can this spur on people who go into congressional hearings or SCIFs? Why not use the internet? You've got hundreds of people who would be absolutely more than thrilled to help you research some background on photos and videos, etc. Begin including more public, because the public massacred this in just 2 hours on YouTube and on the Google searches and on the internet. Talk about a research team with the public. Quit ignoring us. We can be an incredibly invaluable tool to help vet materials. Just something to think about for the future for everyone involved, right?
People make mistakes. These things happen. And I'm sure the UAP Disclosure Fund and everyone involved is thinking about that moving forward for any briefings that they may have, right? So lesson learned. Had issues with the audio as well. And again, I'm not here to judge. Those things are very difficult to put on and to do. There's a lot of moving parts. So I totally get it as a creator myself and doing live streams myself.
Yes, I will agree with that as well. In fact, it took these guys almost they were 17 to 20 minutes late, about the exact same length of time that I was late with my last George Filer live interview because of technical difficulties. And it's not that they don't have good technicians. That's irrelevant. It's helpful, but things come up. So I'm entirely with Patrick on that as well. But it's important. There is, in every phase of this process, I'll call it the UFO process, for lack of a better description of what is going on and has been for 80 years, there are always things that happen that you just don't expect, and it throws you off kilter. I can certainly vouch for that as a YouTube creator myself, and I'm not even an electronic guru. I've confessed that. So, so what we're trying to do here is keep let's call it an adult attitude. There's no reason to scream and holler and bellyache and gripe about Lue. Name calling doesn't help at all. If you like him, you like him. If you don't, you don't. I don't care either way. It's irrelevant. I'm not interested in hearing that. I want to see an analysis of how to critically think and utilize evidence. That's what this event really shines to help us do tonight. Tonight we are in school, and it's awesome.
Right. But you would think they would have this kind of stuff worked out, some of these kinks. And this was a pretty big blunder, I mean, just being honest. I'm not saying people don't make mistakes, but you just own up and move on. I'm not going to hold it against everyone, to be honest with you, me personally.
All right, I'll second that. On the other hand, I'll second that with the caveat. It's really obvious that more care needs to be taken on both sides of this, the debunkers and the people who believe and who are attempting to try to present evidence, which doesn't always really impress any of us, whether we are believers or debunkers or a mixture of both, kind of like I feel like I am. So it's important to recognize we're human, but we can improve, and we really do need to improve. And that's enough said on that.
Whether a private pilot sees what turns out to be a cloud, a balloon, a tennis shoe, or a UAP, we need a reporting mechanism to ensure it can be analyzed and resolved. This was the reason I shared the photo, and I emphasized that several times during the forum. I could have used a photo of an inner tube to prove my point, but I used instead a real photo taken by a real pilot of something he thought was anomalous, which I emphasized had not been analyzed yet.
All right, so this is still Lue defending himself against being deceptive or whatever. And I don't think you could have used a picture of an inner tube. I think Lue is frustrated too, because the attempt here, and it's a valid concern, the attempt here is to try to, can't we find a centralized way somewhere on a computer, on the YouTube, on a website or whatever, where people can, without harm, share their experiences, their photographs, their videos, and have everyone analyze it and try to figure it out. Now, I know you say, well, there's Reddit. You know, Reddit, it has some value, but that wouldn't be the place to do it. I don't know. Patrick later mentions a thing called Apex. I have never heard of that. He says that might be a place he suggested that people can go to have their materials vetted. I will look into that and see. But I agree, we need to find a way to begin to accumulate more data. See, that is the key to this. We need more data. Well, if people are still stigmatized, if they're terrified and they're not willing to share, there are thousands of accounts, according to Six Killer Clark in her books, The Sky People and the Space Indians books, on her interviews by the thousands of people down in Guatemala, Mexico, and South America who have had experiences with UFOs, and none of their stories have been told. And they consistently provide interesting little details that have been corroborated by other experiences over in the UK or somewhere in the United States or down in Australia, etc. And so if they're making it up, if it's a conspiracy, these people don't have iPhones and computers and ways to take pictures or video cameras, etc. They're poor farming people. They're poor communities, etc. And the UFOs are regular down there. We're looking for patterns. That is why we need the data. That is why we're not there yet. We may never be there yet, but we can do better in acquiring the data. And so I get what Elizondo is saying. And it's critical enough that we all need to kind of pitch in and try to figure out, all right, well, how can we make this happen? There is obviously a need for it, without question. So that's an important point.
The ones who are screaming about it instead of discussing it respectfully, as I hoped, miss the entire point of the photo and are not helping other pilots in the future from coming forward. Well, I don't think this helps other pilots also, right? What should have been said, and again, this is all sounds great in retrospect, so I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying moving forward, maybe what they should do is if they are presented with a picture like that, hey, man, we can't present this right now. We need to vet it, and then we'll talk about it. Right. But just letting that pilot come in and give you a picture and show it. And I mean, that shouldn't be the way that this is done. Now, if you want to release a phone and say, hey, we don't know what this is, help us figure it out. That's different. people are going to look into this stuff. Again, trying to control the response you get is impossible.
Basically what I just said. And I agree. You can't control. I mean, if the pilot's going to be worried about that's like worrying about what people think about you, man. If you worry about that enough, you're not going to get anything done in life. Don't care what people think about you. Go do your thing. Find your bliss, like Joseph Campbell said. Find your bliss, and it will automatically magnify your effectiveness, not only to teach others, to share wonderful ideas and views with people, but to enrich everyone's lives. If you worry about all the detractors all the time, I do that a little bit too much, like this idiot behind me that's blaring his stupid music right now. I hope it's not interfering with my video, or I'm going to go kick his ass. But yeah, don't worry about what other people are doing and thinking. Do your own thing and enjoy your life. I think that's pretty important.
Again, you can see here, this is clearly, I mean, even they admit it, right? Everyone's admitting this is not a real UFO photo. It's quite literally just this exact coordinates, which again, I'll put links in the description for. You can find it yourself. You'll see it there. Now, something that kind of came up, which was a little interesting, Chris Ramsey from Area 52 seems like a match. Oh, well, on to the next one. So even he admitted, okay, this has been debunked. But then Kelly Chase puts, from Cosmosis and the UFO Rabbit Hole, puts, I like Chris's attitude, but I'm not sure we should be saying on to the next one. At what point does it become okay to stop to ask the obvious questions about exactly why and how this keeps happening? Because I have serious questions.
Very good point. And we'll all have certain types of reactions to this, right? And so you can't control our reactions. Some people are going to just outright dismiss it. Other people are going to try to analyze it and figure out, all right, well, we have some issues that we're trying to address, but we're not doing it in the smoothest way. We're not doing it with the most aplomb or the best intellectual apparatus we could. However we're doing it, we make mistakes and bumble along the way, but we need to figure this out and work it through. I think that's where we're at with this. Just my opinion.
Things be treated? Should we just move on and not cry over spilt milk, or should we take a closer look at these things and why they're being presented this way? Right. I think, in all fairness, just to be fair, again, like I stated before, I think you shouldn't just show a picture like that at such an important briefing just willy-nilly. I mean, clearly, if you've just shown it that morning, I think what Lue Elizondo probably assumed is that someone else had vetted it. That pilot had vetted it. He'd had it for 3-4 years, right? 2021. So the people that gave it to him to present and put his name behind it didn't do a good job. They kind of set him up to fail, if I'm being honest. And maybe Lue Elizondo has learned his lesson and will from now on not take any pictures like that and show them, right? He'll be like, I'm not doing that again. I need to make sure this has been thoroughly looked at and we're positive it's anomalous.
Now that's the positive spin. And here again is our chance to compare and contrast a negative spin, which we get from the sneezing monkey, which I now want to look at. And I've only got a couple of the clips from the sneezing monkey. Again, I will leave links in the description below. Let's take a look at a couple of his points that I think are worth listening to. That they found the exact same image is what's the kicker. And I think the sneezing monkey analysis of this is really very good.
Go to Google, check it yourself. But like, people found the exact location of this image within less than 24 hours after he held it up. So it took people a few hours basically to debunk this. Oh yeah, and by the way, I should do this image debunked. Ah, feels good. I haven't done that in a while. But it's like,
come on, he's having fun, right? You got to have a little bit of fun in life. I take stuff way too serious, and he's fun, but it's really important what he says. The interpretation of the picture is debunked. This is not a new picture of a UFO of any kind. So let's keep going.
Does he not do this research? Does he not? I mean, he spoke in front of like a congressional briefing, basically as an extended voice of the government, as maybe their official consultant when it comes to ufology and these unexplained phenomenon and all that. Why does he not do his research? Why does he ruin the reputation of himself and the world of ufology and disclosure as a whole so carelessly? You know what I mean? It's like, you really wouldn't have to dig particularly deep, I think, to find out what this image shows, but he didn't even do that. So it raises the question that a lot of people raised in the replies to these posts as well. Is he doing this on purpose? Does he make these mistakes intentionally? Because, I mean, Dr. Stephen Greer in the past accused him of being a disinformation person because maybe he's a disinformation agent who just intentionally is trying to spread images, muddle the water, right? Get people to focus on all that fake information and stuff like this rather than focusing on the real phenomenon that is ufology. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
I agree with him. That is part of the discussion. But where I disagree with him, and I'm going to share an analogy, I think it roughly fits. I hope my analogy works. So from the sneezing monkey's point of view, this is damaging all of ufology, not just Lue Elizondo's reputation. I don't think so. I don't think it touches ufology at all. Now, why would I say something like that? The analogy I'm thinking of is take the Bible. Now, the Bible is an ancient text. It's not actually an ancient text, singular. It is a collection of numerous different types of documents: poetry, prose, history, prophecy, teachings, doctrine, etc., put together over centuries length of time. So if a particular group of people translate the Greek to fit their own particular biased Jehovah's Witness doctrines, and a different group of Christians interpret the Bible Greek in such a way as the Jehovah's Witness doctrines can't possibly be true, but another, say the Baptists or the Methodists or the Mormons or whoever you want, their translations match that group's, the question becomes, we have issues with translation and interpretation. Do those contradictory issues prove the Bible is fake and false? They have nothing to do with whether the Bible is true or false. They have everything to do with how people are translating and interpreting it. I would propose the same thing here. The interpretation of this particular photo is of a UFO. But now that we found the original picture, it is actually just a farm field. Does that contradiction affect ufology? No, of course not. It affects the various different contradictory interpretations of the individuals, or even a group of ufologists who like to say Greer is correct as opposed to Lue Elizondo, or Danny Sheehan has the better interpretation of aliens among us than Major George Filer, or whoever is giving us whatever interpretation. Those interpretations are not ufology in totality. They are individuals' understandings, which in a very real essence here will always be changing because we just don't have all the evidence in. So essentially, we are tentative in any kind of a hard, fast conclusion, or we should be, because a new analysis completely changes what we think about so many different aspects of ufology. For instance, is there just one race, or are there like 7? Some people have interpreted 52. Well, you can't even agree on how many races. Obviously, UFOs are fake. No, that's a non sequitur conclusion. meaning the non sequitur, that does not follow that aliens aren't real just because we can't figure out how many species there are. We have no idea how many different species there are, but we know there's different species according to what the experiencers have explained. And if the same species appears to people, say, in Mesoamerica, and then over there in Africa, and then up there in Canada, then that verifies that species, more or less. So again, what we need to recognize is a careful, critical thinking, realizing we're going to have contradictions, of course. That if we didn't have contradictions, it really could be a conspiracy. It really could. But the contradictions, as well as the additions, for instance, one of the phenomenal new additions to this whole subject is Richard Dolan's USOs, the unidentified submerged objects that are coming from the earth. Well, you say they've been here for hundreds of thousands of years right here on the earth. This is where they're from. Others say, oh, well, they're from outer space. Well, you idiot, you're contradicting each other. Obviously, this proves none of this exists. No, it does not. That, again, the conclusion, the hastily drawn conclusion, because we want an answer and we want it right now. You give us the answer, damn it. But it doesn't follow that none of it's real. It follows that we are incomplete in our understanding and analysis, and new evidence is coming forward to enlarge the true complexity of the entire phenomenon. These are the issues that we're dealing with. And I will be the first to say they're much more complex than I expected when I first jumped onto broadcasting them on YouTube. And this is what gives it its tinge of mystery, its essence of excitement, the drive to find out what is the truth. What is more? What is more? Well, I like that particular author, but I don't like that one, so I'm not going to read those books. Man, you're cutting your nose off to spite your face. I don't want to read any books. I just want videos. Man, you're cutting your nose off to spite your face. Well, I don't trust the videos. I'm going to look at the photos. Man, you're cutting your lips off to spite your face. The essential way to approach this is bring it all to the table. Don't pre-select and get rid of something because, oh, that's psionics. That's new age mumbo jumbo bullshit. I don't want anything to do with that. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. It's not about what you like or don't like. It's about what is real and what is happening. And there are psionic and telepathic aspects to this phenomenon. And that's just stinking weird. That's not the issue. Well, that's too much for me. Then you're the problem, not the subject. Well, I don't believe in that. That means it's not real. Are you kidding me? Because you don't believe in something, that means it's not real. Who taught you to think so that way? Now, at one point, I think I was thinking that way too. So, I'm going to say something that you're just going to guffaw about. And I'm actually stone cold serious. Critical thinking is fun. Doing analysis is the sweetness of being alive. Exercising your brain to test how valid would that be based on this point, and that point, compared to this argument here based on that point, and that point. Well, that point over there and that point over there correlate, but those 2 points over there and those 2 points over there, those contradict. Therefore, both ideas are false? No. It's not about true or false. It's not a black and white subject. Probability Bayesian theorem probability is what needs to come into this. How probable is it that this event or this idea is more accurate than that one, based on what evidences we have, and why is that one more probable? And then, oh, wait, for 3 years we thought that this was actually true. Now we have some other new evidence. Wait a minute. Maybe they're not from outer space after all. They're from this Earth because of the USO. Interesting new development, and therefore we were wrong. What's the probability that they are from Earth as opposed to from space? The absolutist is going to say, you're contradicting yourself. They're either from Earth or they are from outer space. You can't have them both. Who taught you to think so weirdly? What do you mean you can't have them both? Of course you can have them both. That's like saying there can only be one species of alien or the whole thing is fake. How do you arrive at such a ridiculous, hardcore conclusion without any evidence? But when we deal with the probability based on the stories we've collected, which gives the stories importance, there are people who dismiss the stories. Oh, only show me a video. Oh, well, that video is too clear. It's fake. Oh, well, that video is too fuzzy. It's not useful. When both could be wrong in their thinking, and ignoring the stories gives you less truthful probability, you acquire all of it together for a most accurate probability, with the contingency that once you get to a probability about something or other, you must remain open to new evidence coming out, because we don't know everything about the phenomenon, and new evidence is going to show up, and we have to be ready for it. We never finally, at last, arrive at the truth. That's not how it works. That's not how reality has ever worked. It's always been based on what is more likely, that the sun won't rise tomorrow or it will. Because there is a probability that it won't. It's not zero. That could happen. So we take all the amassed data and work our probabilities, right? There is a probability. What's the probability of dropping my pen and watching it fall up? Not very high, but it's not zero, because of quantum physics. There really is a probability that the pen could fall up. Look, I didn't invent this. This is how physics works. So the open mind, not so open that your brains fall out, but the open mind, meaning the analytical mind, the willingness to change your mind based on credible new evidence, regardless of what type of evidence. You don't get to decide the only proper evidence is going to be videos. That's not how this works. No, you don't get to say, I will only read books and reject everything else because of CGI. No, sorry, that's not how this works. You're not going to have any validity at all if that's your approach. The correct scientific way to get a valid Bayesian inference probability is to put it all on the table, no matter how asinine some of it might be. And then we begin to assess the totality with our probabilities. That's how it works, sincerely. You can look up any book on Bayesian theorem and see this. Any book. It's all over on the computer. There are YouTube channels dedicated to Bayes' theorem. You really ought to look at those. Seriously. So that's my backyard professor approach to this. My response is it's too bad it happened. It really can't happen again, Lou. Seriously. Not again. You're really on the ropes now. You're at strike 2. This is serious. And yet, what a glorious opportunity for us to see both sides, to see a negative, to see a positive, to see a realistic way to approach this evidence so that we are helped along in order not to make these kinds of mistakes, so that we can move forward with a validating experience or a validating story or a validated video, picture, or what have you. And we all contribute to this information together. That's what the UFO community is doing, or ought to be. So thanks for watching my Backyard Professor Responds videos. I appreciate all your support. Hit the like and subscribe. I was supposed to say that at the first of my video. I always get so hooked into it that I wait until the end. Sorry. But yeah, it means a lot to me for you being supportive. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Talk to me in the comments on this one. I'm going to go. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.